Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Dr. Vivian Valencia. I'm assistant professor at the Farming Systems Ecology Group in Wageningen University. And today I'm going to present to you a paper that is currently under review in Frontiers in Sustainable Food System. This is a result of a research project also in collaboration with Dr. Hannah Whitman, Andy Jones, and Jennifer Blesh from University of Michigan and University of British Columbia in Vancouver. Okay, next slide. So a little bit of background. Gender equity is an important human right and sustainable development goal, as well as fundamental precondition for achieving other development objectives, including improved food security, child nutrition, education, poverty reduction, and women's health. A critical aspect of promoting gender equity, that is the equal enjoyment of rights and responsibilities, opportunities, and well-being between men and women, is the empowerment of women. And here by empowerment, I mean the extent to which women are agents who formulate choices, control resources, and enact decisions that affect important life outcomes, ultimately allowing women and men to fully participate as equal actors, equal partners in productive and reproductive life. Yet, despite recognizing gender equity as central to the Sustainable Development Goals, as highlighted in SDG 5 in the UN Agenda 2030, women face significant challenges in their ability to access and control productive resources and opportunities that are important for agricultural life. Therefore, there is a need to identify mechanisms by which policies and interventions in agriculture can enhance women's empowerment and ultimately gender equity, and that is the gap that this research seeks to address. So here I'd like to introduce you to a very promising policy mechanism to align government actions, in particular the way in which governments purchase food with a variety of development goals. So this is called public food procurement. And it's particularly promising are targeted public food procurement programs. So in this type of programs shift resources, in other ways they target family farmers and create structured demand for locally produced foods, vegetables, legumes, dairy, and other food products. So by structured demand here, I mean a demand that is large, stable, and predictable, which constitutes a reliable source of income generation and in which prices are stabilized. Given their focus on diverse food items, targeted public food procurement programs can enable family farmers to transition from intensive monocultures to diversified farming systems. And this we have already shown in a prior study. However, public food procurement programs remained an underexplored topic. And in this study, we seek to expand our understanding of this type of programs and their relationship with farming practices and women's empowerment. In specific, for this study, we looked at a particular type of public procurement program, which is Brazil's National School Lunch Program. And this program was redesigned in 2009, along with other public procurement programs. And the redesign of these policies was considered as highly innovative by bodies such as the FAO and the World Food Program because of the way in which they linked multiple sectors and goals, including linking public nutrition programs and investment in family farming sectors. So this type of programs, this type of way of doing public procurement that we're focusing in this program, this Brazilian program, is in contrast to other ways of food procurement in which governments are simply seeking to purchase the cheapest food, regardless of where it's coming from, on who or how it was produced. So this program, which I'm going to refer to as PNAE for its acronym in Portuguese, was redesigned to allocate at least 30% of its budget for purchases from family farmers. In addition, it's providing a premium for organic production, and it operates in a decentralized way in which each municipality is in charge of its own purchases. So this is a program on which we focus in particular in this study. And our particular hypothesis, so this is a bit of a conceptual model. Basically, our first hypothesis is that public procurement programs create an enabling social context that bolster positive feedbacks between women's empowerment and crop diversification on farms, and that this enabling context is amplified by social movements that both support agroecological farming and champion human rights. And these hypotheses are based on prior work that has already alluded to the links between agroecological practices and the changing role of women in agriculture, and extensive work on social movements and the role it has played in championing women's rights. For this, we went to Santa Catarina in the south of Brazil and worked in this plateau region. Here, the dominant crops are corn and soy for animal feed. You also find garlic production, beef and milk production, but also horticulture farmers. And of course, you find farmers who participate in PNAE and farmers who do not. So this was an excellent region for our study site. What did we do? We interviewed 75 family farmers. That included 20 family farmers who were participating in this program and 55 who were not. We also conducted key informant interviews with 7 female farmers. We collected information, data on production, so production diversity, what type of crops were produced, management practices, type of management systems, and other related factors such as farm size, access to credit, and so on. For women's empowerment, we use the abbreviated Women's Empowerment in Agriculture Index, and we focused on 2 domains in particular: decisions about agricultural production and control of use of income. We focus on domains 1 and 3 in particular because we're interested in how women's decision making regarding agricultural production, and control over use of income impact agrobiodiversity and agricultural practices, and also because control over impact is key for exercising agency and reflects whether an individual is able to benefit from their efforts. We also considered domain 4, which relates to leadership in the community with respect to groups that support agroecology, because we're interested in the role of social movements in supporting a transformation towards sustainable food systems. So analysis, we conducted a variety of analyses to understand the links between this program and women's empowerment, agrobiodiversity, and agroecological practices. We did, many of our analyses consist, as you can see here, in comparing farmers that are participating in PNAE and not participating in PNAE with regards to these different indicators in women's empowerment. For example, for the role of social movements, we were interested in how they were enabling farmers' participation in public programs such as PNAE, and how women's empowerment compare whether participating or not in a social movement was associated with these indicators of women's empowerment. So some of our results, and this is just a brief overview of our results. So here you can see decision-making by farming system type. And very interesting, what we can see is that in horticulture compared to grain crops, most of the management occurs jointly by male and female farmers. And these differences were statistically significant. When we compare decision-making by households in PNAE and not in PNAE, we see that in the households enrolled in PNAE, most decision-making also occurs jointly by women and men, female and male farmers, although this is only marginally significant. So regarding the links between women's empowerment, agrobiodiversity, and agroecological practices, the take-home message of this table is that when women were absent from decision-making, agrobiodiversity was lower and management relied less on agroecological practices. And when both men and women were involved in decision-making, they jointly managed higher levels of agrobiodiversity while increasing use of agroecological practices. And we think this has to do also because men and women have complementary knowledge, and women have already pre-existing knowledge on how to manage horticulture plots, because traditionally they were already managing this as home gardens. So regarding the role of social movements, we identified 2 key groups that promoted agroecological practices in the region. We found that 60% of the households involved in PNAE participated in agroecological social movements versus only 40% among the households not involved in PNAE. When we looked at the entire sample, so all 75 households, we found that among the women who participated in social movements, there was greater participation in decision-making regarding the main agricultural activity and higher control over income. This is for the women who participated in agroecological social movements. So I'm running out of time, and I want to bring you to my conclusions. So what does this all mean? So PNAE public food procurement programs that target family farmers and other marginalized social groups by creating large and reliable, what we're calling structured demand for diversified food products. So the structural changes facilitated by PNAE modify the parameters within which women participate in agricultural activities and form household decision-making. And in supporting the process of farm diversification, which we found in our prior study, PNAE benefited women's empowerment by creating the conditions for women to pursue productive activities such as growing diversified food products for this program, and to make strategic choices such as decision-making regarding productive activities and control over income. This happened as part of an interplay between the social movements and these policies. And this is important to highlight, that either one would have probably been insufficient to contribute to the positive effects on empowerment that we documented. And women empowerment was supported by this collective solidarity created by social groups, which had been creating conditions for social change even before this program was redesigned. And in our study, women who participated in social movements were more empowered and their households were more likely to participate in PNAE. And finally, so in a nutshell, the take-home message is that in combination with social movements that are inclusive of women, public procurement is a promising policy mechanism for enhancing women's empowerment in agriculture. And this type of programs such as the PNAE, which target family farmers, may support women's empowerment by creating new markets for diversified food products, thereby valuing diversified production systems which are more inclusive of women. And by supporting women's empowerment at the household level, this interplay between this program, the PNAE, and social movements has the potential for positive feedbacks that increase gender equity. So it is the interaction between grassroots movements and government institutions that can create more equitable and sustainable food systems. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope that you look at the paper with more details on this study when it comes out. So thank you very much, and do write to me if you have more questions. Thank you.